Hey guys, what's going on? How we doing? I'm Craig and this is the Spirit of Vinyl. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope you guys are all doing well. Start the night, it's the weekend. Let's just do a little shot here. How's that sound? You guys want to take a shot with me? Pause the video, go get your bottle, take a shot with me, alright? Got my Indiana shot glass. So, for those of you who are ready, cheers to you all. Happy Friday. Cheers to the vinyl community. God damn, that's good stuff. Anyway, how you guys doing? Hope everything's doing great. So, been watching a few videos this week, and there's a couple of threads going around, and what I'm going to do tonight is just kind of do 2 in 1. So, put both threads out just at one time instead of doing, whatever. I'm going to start with one that hasn't been out that long that I've noticed. I actually just noticed it today. Watched a video or so and then stopped because I didn't want to didn't want to risk the chance of doing something somebody else has done. So Christian at Front to Back Vinyl as doing a winter thread. It got cold where he's at up north somewhere. Not sure where Christian's at. He said it got colder this week and they had snow. And I would say here in Tennessee on Monday we had snow. Of course it doesn't stick. It didn't stick, but it did snow and it was cold. It's actually the first time in history since they've been taking care of weather or whatever, they can prove that it snowed in Tennessee before it snowed in Denver, Colorado. So there you go. That's what happened to us this weekend with this whole winter vortex thing that hit us down here in the South. So, it is what it is, right? And now today it's 78 degrees and tomorrow is going to be in the 70s. So it's not really winter here in the South. It probably won't happen to us for real until January, but that's okay. I thought I'd jump on this thread anyway. So, I'm going to start off with this AFI picture disc I have. Man, I'm going to have to... Sorry about the glare on that because it's a picture disc. You can't really see anything on there. This is an AFI picture disc. It's basically a greatest hits album. And you can barely read the sticker. But the third song on side 1, which I don't know if you can see, is called A Winter's Tale. This was a gift from a friend of mine when I moved here. He's like, oh, you collect records? I've got a record. This is the only one he owned. He told me I could have it for as long as I wanted. If he ever wanted it back, he knew where it was. So I've listened to this a few times. Good stuff. AFI, sort of, I'm not sure where you would classify them. But, yeah, so A Winter's Tale by AFI. That is the first one. I'm showing 5 for winter. Christian said, show as many as you want. I got through and got 5 of them. So second, Steve Miller Band. This is, The Book of Dreams. And the song on here, which I probably expect to see a whole bunch of time, is called Winter Time. Right there, third track, side 1. On this classic Steve Miller album that I'm sure 90% of us own. So, Winter Time by Steve Miller. Alright, let's see, what am I going to pick next here? So, track 3, Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. Of course, they're I think this is their debut album. This is their biggest album for sure. It's got all the cool songs like One Step Closer, Paper Cut, Crawling, Runaway. But the song I picked on here, oh hell, well, apparently the internet has lied to me. Told me there was a song called Winter or something on here. Hey, look, I'm not prepared. Give me 1 second here. I looked something up. I swear it told me to pull out Hybrid Theory. So, see what we can do here. Let me see. Where's my Linkin Park at? Well, it's not on that one either. So, you know what? We got time, right? Let me look up what it's telling me here. I swear, it told me that there was a song. Let's see. Do. Well, it was telling me Linkin Park My December, which, it says it's on here. Well, the internet is a liar because there is no song on here called My December. There's your list right there. Do you see My December on there? No, I do not see that on there at all. But according to the internet, the song My December is, wow, that doesn't show up at all. Originally written for a holiday compilation song used in the month of December. Oh, it's on the remix. Oh, well. Anyway, there was a song called My December by Linkin Park, which I was told by the internet, which lied to me, was on Hybrid Theory. Please forgive me. You know what? I'll go just get one more when the time comes. Hell, I'll go grab it now. Hang on. Screw it. I'm going with one of the first ones I thought of when I saw this thread, so I can still have 5. Cinderella, Long Cold Winter. There you go. That's original, right? There we go. Cinderella, Long Cold Winter. All right, next up. I know this song, internet or not, is on this record. First, hang on. Let me get me another shot after all that drama I just had to go through because the internet lied to me about a Linkin Park song. Metallica, Ride the Lightning. A song on here about winter, about being cold. It's called Trapped Under Ice. Right there. First song, side 2, Trapped Under Ice. Arguably, this is probably one of my favorite Metallica records. I love this album. Kill 'Em All, their first one is really raw and heavy. This one, you can feel their kind of groove coming in. Of course, you know, Master of Puppets is the masterpiece. But I really, really dig this record. So, yeah, Metallica, Ride the Lightning, Trapped Under Ice. All right, and then I've got one more here. Hey, it's actually on there. Gojira, L'Enfant Sauvage. There's the inside of that record, and I picked this one due to their song right there, Born in Winter. Gojira is a very cool, kind of a technical death metal, I guess you could say. This album is a classic in the realm. In my opinion, this is a killer record. Gojira, L'Enfant Sauvage, the song Born in Winter. If you want to see how cool Gojira really is, go check out their opening thing from this year's Olympics in the summertime when they opened the Olympics. The most metal thing I've ever seen on mainstream television is Gojira opening the Olympics. So, anyway, that was my nice messed up thread for Christian over at Front to Back Vinyl. That's his winter thread. So there we go. I barely got through that one, right, guys? You know, it is what it is, right? Right. All right. The other thread that's been going around for a couple weeks, and I've been thinking about this for a while. And it is a thread from the Vinyl Narrative, from Cam over at the Vinyl Narrative, and it is 5 albums that you will never sell. And I really had a hard time with this because I don't really sell records. I did do a purge and went through and got rid of like 70 or 75 of them, but what I've got left, I can't see ever getting rid of any of them. So I thought, well, how would I do this? 5 records I'll never sell. I don't plan on selling anything I own because I'm not a guy who just purges and sells stuff, a lot of that stuff was stuff people gave to me, and things that I had found and stuff like that weren't really my style. So that was a little different. I'm kind of down to the point where I have what I've bought, or I've had what I've, some of the stuff that I found in that big dumpster fire stuff I'm never going to get rid of. So how do you pick 5 records you're never going to sell and make it mean anything? So I kind of ignored it for a little while. And then the other night I'm watching Trevor over at Flat Round and Spun, and he did that thread for 5 records you will never part with or never sell. And the way he went about it, it was more sentimental value and things like that, and kind of had a story to go behind it. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. That's 5 records I can never sell. I can come up with that 5 real simple like. So here we go. Let's see here. I'm going to start with one here. I know you guys have just seen this not too long ago. This is a Safari's original hit version, Wipeout and Surfer Joe, and other popular selections. This was in my video I did probably a month ago by my mom's records. This is one of my mom's records, and that's one of the reasons I will never sell this. This thing has Wipeout by the Safari's, Wiggle Wobble. Well, I'll just show you. There's your track listing on that. It's got Tequila and Green Onions, Surfer Joe, Walk Don't Run. Just really cool kind of surf music sound. It is on Dot Records. And, I will never sell this record ever. I may not play it a whole lot. I've heard this record hundreds of times as I was growing up. My dad would play this. Technically, this is my mom's music. My mom had all the music, but my dad loved this record. And he would play this all the time on the nice console stereo that we had in the 70s. One of those big wooden boxes that had the 8-track player and the AM, FM, and the phonograph with the speaker cabinet and everything. And, he'd whip this record out and it would just be playing, and it would just be fun. And I can't, I was glad to get these records from my mom, this one especially, because this one really had a thing that really stuck out in my head as, childhood memory. It would just be fun. It would be on, and my dad would be being goofy, and, playing air drums to, Wipe Out, and just, being a goofball. My dad came from a very musical family, although he was not musical himself. But he, did really dig this type of stuff. Of course, this is from their era when they were teenagers. So this is really cool stuff. Sharing this with me as a child, there's no way I could ever sell this record. When I went back to Utah and picked up my mom's records, I was really looking forward to getting those, and especially getting this one particular album. If all the other ones were gone, that would have been fine, as long as I had this. And this is the one. I'll never sell this record. So that's one of those right there. So that's really, the nostalgia thing for me. My next one that I will never sell is this Kiss Creatures of the Night. This is an original press from 82 or whenever the record came out. 1982. Still has the inner sleeve with the lyrics, although it's kind of split in half. It's got this cool label on the back of it. And I know, it's a copy of Creatures of the Night. This was the first Kiss album I ever owned. My friend who got me into Kiss, his name was Mike. We were junior high school kids. And then me and him were becoming really close, and then my parents ended up moving from Idaho to Utah when I was 14 years old, and as a going away present, my friend Mike, who got me into Kiss, bought me this record as a going away present. This was their new album at the time. Of course, at the time I did not know, Ace is on the front cover, but he's technically not on this record. It's all Vinnie Vincent guitar work and so on, but this record was my very first Kiss album. It was given to me as a gift from my friend Mike, who was one of my first, friends, close friends. That was that age where you're starting to, really make friends that you we can look back on and say, oh, I made friends with people who I've known forever that I will know forever. Mike was going to be one of those kids, but then I ended up moving a couple hundred miles away and we ended up losing touch. And, we kind of found each other on Facebook and, we've gone separate lives and separate ways. You know how it goes. So, but still, this is the record. It's my first Kiss album. It's my first album that, it wasn't the first album I had owned, but it really was the first hard rock type of thing besides the Billy Squier stuff that I had. And it really was sending me in the direction of the heavier music. This is a very heavy record. This is a lot heavier than anything Kiss had done beforehand. And so this being my first Kiss record and really leading me down the path of buying Kiss music. And then that led to AC/DC and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and Ozzy and, on, and put me in that thing where, becoming a metalhead. This is the one that starts it here. And this was a gift. And I've had this ever since then. In 1982, I would have been 13 years old. I am now 56. So I've had this record for 43 years. Still play it. Still sounds really good, actually, considering I never took care of my records as a teenager. So there we go. Kiss, Creeps of the Night, another record I will never sell. Another record I will never sell is my AC/DC High Voltage 1981 New Zealand press. This is Albert Productions. This is AC/DC's debut record. This is different than the American High Voltage. It has, there's your track listing right there. And this is a record that was also a gift from a friend back then. I mean, this is from this says 1981 on the back. I'm not sure when this record actually came out. Obviously it's not an original press. 81, and this says New Zealand on the back. It doesn't say Australia, but it has the original cover of High Voltage with the dog peeing on the transformer. And this was a gift from my friend Gabby when I moved to Utah by then, and I was probably in the 9th grade, so I think I'd turned 15, and this was a birthday present. So it was shortly after, probably about 6 months after I got the Creatures of the Night record. So that kind of shows you where I'm leading. Moved to Utah, don't know anybody. We moved in July. The first couple weeks I was there, I met a neighborhood kid, Gabby. I told the story about him. And last week I actually mentioned him. He was the tape trader and stuff. So on my 15th birthday, no, it was my 14th birthday, he bought me this. It would be my 14th birthday, and that would have been in 1984. And I've had this record ever since. And I only got like a month and a half till my next birthday. So I've had this for a long, long time also, and I will never sell this record. I've had it since then. It's a great record. I also have the other High Voltage, AC/DC, the American version or whatever, and they do have somewhat different track lists and stuff, and I guess I kind of prefer this one over the other one because this is the one I had when I was younger. This is the one I had when I was in junior high and high school. This is the AC/DC High Voltage that I listen to. This is the way, when I hear the album High Voltage, this is the way I expect it to sound. This is a track listing I expect to hear rather than the American version of High Voltage with the different track listings. So, but yes, I will never, ever, ever sell this record. All right, another record, which I've shown on here before. Hasn't been that long. Well, it's been a long time since I've shown it. But another record that I will never sell, and that is the original motion picture soundtrack of the movie Grease. There's your track listing. This record comes out in, let's see here, 1978. I am 9 years old. And I got this record back then when I was 9 years old. This is not the oldest record in my collection, obviously, but this is probably the one I've had the longest. I've had this since then, the one I've had in my possession since then. I was 9 years old, so I've had it almost 50 years. I bought this my parents bought me this back in 1978. I would have been 9 years old. I loved this soundtrack. I love the songs from this. I saw the movie and fell in love with the movie. Looking back now, I was probably a little young to understand the connotation of the movie itself. Songs like Grease Lightning and things like that, and, some of the questionable material that's on here for a 9-year-old, but it was 1978. My mom took me to see it. She loved John Travolta. RSO label, of course. I still have both of the paper sleeves in here. And like I said, I've had this record since then. And I still love it to this day. I'll still play this. It's been a while since I played this. The last time I played it, my kid came out here and said, "What the hell are you listening to?" I'm like, "Man, this is a soundtrack of Grease." I know every lyric, every song. I loved the movie, still do. Love the soundtrack. There's your gatefold of all the cool stuff. Just great, fond memories. And I've had this, like I said, since then. Probably played it on my little portable. I used to have this yellow plastic portable fold-up record player, kind of folded up into a suitcase. It had built-in speakers, and you'd unfold it, and you could put a record on it. And of course, it had the big, giant, tall spindle and the big, heavy arm on there. And it was just a cheapo, made out of Bakelite type plastic. And so this record's been around since then, and I still have it, and I still play it, and it doesn't skip. It has a few pops and crackles, which is to be expected, but I've had this for that long and took care of it enough. And of course, when I got older and I was in high school, this record just sat back there and never got played because didn't want your friends to hear you playing this shit when you're a thrasher or you're a metalhead, but I kept it the whole time. I never got rid of it. I never just threw it away. It was just always there. I guess somehow I always knew that I would always go back to this. So Grease soundtrack that I've had since then. It says 78, probably a little bit later because it does have a cut corner. So I may have gotten it in 79 or something. They printed millions of these things and they sold them, a lot of them, but some of them, of course. So it's got a cut corner, which means it was probably in the discount bin at Sears or Kmart or something. So not really sure. I don't remember exactly where I got it or when. I know I wasn't old enough to have bought it myself. So, but yeah, I've had it for as long as I can remember. So this is a record I will never sell. I know you can find copies of these for $5, and it's not that big of a deal, but for me, it's a pretty big deal. And my last record that I'll never sell, and I had a hard time picking the fifth one. I could have picked a million different records in here. I thought about pulling out my Japanese Iron Maiden Killers. And I thought, that's one of the ones that I found in the dumpster. And I thought about a whole bunch of those type of records that I'll never sell due to, what they are and so on. How hard they are to find and what they're worth or whatever. But what I picked for my last record that I will never sell is this box set by Megadeth called Warheads on Foreheads. This has got 4 LPs, and it starts off with Rattlehead and Mechanics, and it's basically just their whole career all the way through. It starts with the first album and goes all the way up to Dystopia. So there's kind of your track listing right there. It's very cool. It's got this cool book that has, bunch of pictures of warriors and lyrics and stories, and then each sleeve has its own kind of thing on it with, the list on the back, and, and it's a pretty cool box set. But the main reason I'll never sell it, besides, you guys know me, I'm a huge Megadeth fan, so that's a good enough reason to never sell it right there. But the main thing is my wife bought this for me a few years back for, I think it was Father's Day. And my wife rarely buys me music. And for her to go out and fork over probably the $60 to $80 that this cost for a Megadeth record, even though she knows I'm a big fan, she's not, she's, you know, she doesn't have the love for albums like I do. She doesn't understand my obsession with bands like I have. You know, she's a fan of music, but she doesn't understand, you know, being a big fan and wanting every record and listening to them. And, you know, she doesn't understand being obsessed. So for her to go out and pick this for me and buy this for me, that was pretty special in my opinion. So, and it's a great, you know, it's a great compilation of their career, retrospective of their career, or however you want to put it. So it's really cool. And like I said, one of my favorite bands. But for my wife to have bought this for me, I never would have bought this. I have all the Megadeth records. You know, I don't need all this stuff. I wouldn't spend. I'm not a box set guy. I wouldn't have spent a whole bunch of money on this. You know, for $80, I can buy a bunch of different records that has music I don't own. You know, and this has, I own all this music on the other albums because I own all the Megadeth stuff because I'm a huge fan. So, but I'm not really a guy to just go out and buy all the compilation albums and all the, you know, things like that. I'm the same way with Kiss. I have all the studio albums. There's a whole bunch of their greatest hits things I don't have, you know. I already have that music, so why spend my money on it? I'm not, you know, I'm a big fan, but I don't have to have everything. I don't have to have every release. That's just not the way I am. So I never would have bought this on my own. So it's really cool that she bought it for me. So that's one reason that I will never sell this record. So there you go. That's basically both threads. The winter thread, sorry, it went off the rails a little bit. The 5 I'll never sell. So, you know. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got for tonight. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful weekend. Hope it hasn't gotten too cold where you were at for that winter thread. Hope you guys are all, like I said, enjoying yourself out there. Be safe. Thanks you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you very much once again. And cheers to you all. Cheers to the vinyl community. This is the most wonderful community. I love being a part of it. Thank you very much for accepting me into it. I really, really appreciate it. You guys all have a great night, and I will talk to you guys, I don't know, sometime in the nearest future. Peace out, guys. We'll talk to y'all later.